Manchester City with the win, and they were on top throughout the game with 27 shots, 8 of them on target. Their XG pretty much in line with their goal tally. They had more touches, significantly more touches in the Manchester United box than United did in City's. Many more passes in the final third and the lion's share of possession. Manchester United with just 3 shots, only 1 of them on target. That was Marcus Rashford's goal. Of their XG, 0.03 of that was from Marcus Rashford's goal. And of the 3 shots, only 1 of them came after the 15th minute of the game for Manchester United. Only 9 touches in the Manchester City box, 58 passes in the final third, and just about a quarter of the possession in that game. And we'll come to Manchester United's performance in just a second, but from City, it felt very much, Micah, as a case of it's what they do.
Well, I said before the game, it's about being calm, being composed and waiting for the right moment. In the first half, I thought United defended excellently well. City found it hard to sort of break them down, although they did have some chances. And it's just about playing a normal game, relaxing, believing in your ability, and in that second half, the game's always going to open up. Man United defended so well, but they can't do it for 90 minutes. Being that deep, making them short runs, they tire you out, they grind you down, and then in the end, the quality just shone through. It's 2 different teams, you know. It's one who are trying to find themselves. People have talked about the structure and the style of play. I thought today they did it in certain parts in the game, but in the end, Man City just blew them away with their quality.
Yeah, in terms of those criticisms that there have been for Manchester United, one has been about the structure. First of all, whether there is a definable structure, and secondly, about at times commitment from Manchester United. Were either of those things, do you think, lacking particularly today?
I kind of don't want to be too hard on United today because I just thought Man City were brilliant. Man City showed why they're champions. That's 11 league losses now for United. What City do is they find out all your shortcomings, and when you're out on that pitch and it's tough, there is no hiding place. It's like a boxer. We've seen the boxer. When you're in that ring, there's no hiding place. And they just wore them down. United made a substitution. Johnny went off after about 69 minutes. They had to change the back 4, and they were kind of hanging on there anyway. And the stats at the end of the game show you how strong and dominant this Man City were. And Man City, even people like Haaland, De Bruyne, weren't at their very best. But then you have people like Foden who step up. We spoke about it before the game. An amazing, brilliant player. And United, it still leaves that question mark over Man United. Where does this Man United team go on? Particularly when it was the last 20-25 minutes, they couldn't get near City. City toyed with them. But again, I feel it's more credit to City than really being critical of this Man United team. Because again, Man United, we know their shortcomings, but when you play Man City, it's just, there's no hiding place. So Man United will have to take their medicine today, but again, huge question marks again for this team, and unfortunately for the manager.
That calmness and belief that you talked about from Manchester City is based on evidence. That's 21 points they've taken now from losing positions this season. They know that they can finish a game strongly.
Yeah, I think they believe in their ability. You see the quality players, like Roy said, I don't think De Bruyne was at his very best today, and Haaland too. But you've still got Bernardo Silva, you've still got Foden, you've still got Stones going into pockets for when Man United were trying to press. And I think the big difference for me today was Man City's bench. If you look at who they could introduce on the pitch and then who Man United, and yes, we also want to see youngsters doing very well, but Man City can bring on a World Cup winner and he's involved within the goal, and that is just the difference at the moment. I think I agree with Roy, it's not a time to be very critical of Man United today, because I did see good signs of what they was trying to do, but in the end, they've just not got the quality needed for this level in terms of Man City.
That's 11 league games they've lost. You know, that's one scary stat when you consider, you look at what United are, to give up so many goals and defeats. We spoke last week, it was the Fulham game. They lacked a bit of energy, they had that, but the last 20-25 minutes, City were just, again, men v boys at the end, and they were just hanging in there, and they were making mistakes, and again, lads coming off the bench, not quite getting up to speed. City's players coming on and making a difference, giving them energy, and towards the end then you're thinking it could be 4 or 5. Have to take it.
Yeah, 2 more defeats this season than they had in the whole of last season already for Manchester United. They did give themselves a bit of glimmer of hope at 8 minutes into the game when Marcus Rashford put them in front. But Phil Foden with, an equally impressive strike almost for the equaliser. But there was a little bit of controversy at the beginning. Erik ten Hag was booked for complaining about a challenge on Marcus Rashford when Manchester United were on the attack. Any thoughts on this?
No, it's not a foul. I think Roy will agree with me on that. But just on Foden, we talk so much about what's his best position. I said before the game, when you're confident, it doesn't matter where you play. It's what you do when you're on the ball. Goes into a little pocket, and then can he beat Lindelof? Of course he can. And can he stick it in? And this is him this season. He's probably on the season of his career. And what I like the most about Foden is stepping up even when De Bruyne is on the pitch. He was excellent before De Bruyne came back into the team, and we thought, would he play within himself? And no, he's showing up, mentality, and yeah.
United have got the players back here. This is I'd be critical of United defenders. They have the bodies back, but 2 or 3 players are just having a breather at the wrong time. You got Foden, who we've seen him do it many times this season, cutting in, and the players are just having a breather for that split second. You can't do it against Foden. We've seen it before. And there's 2 or 3 of them, because when he's a left footer cutting in like this, people think it's dangerous. But when you've got bodies in there, and this is still early enough into the second half, it's not as if towards the end, this is where you got to switch on. There's 2 or 3 of them. Look, you got to get out to the ball. You got to get out. It's Foden. He's an amazing, brilliant player. He wants to come in on this side. He's coming to a stronger foot. Get out to him. Get out to him, and it's them fine details.
It was a little bit difficult for him in terms of body shapes, because when you've got a centre half who's playing on the wrong side, the way I used to defend, I always used to show someone a certain way. But because Phil Foden can go both ways, I agree with Roy. He should have just got tighter and made his mind up for him, but he let Phil Foden dictate to him, and then...
But even when he comes in, Mike, that's what you want, your help from your teammates. So if he does show him in, I know people go, you can't show him in the park, but if he does, Foden will go where he wants to go. That's why he's a brilliant player. But it's not as if they didn't have the bodies back. They had it. But that's where you come around. And when I was a midfielder, I saw somebody come into my area, I'm going, happy days, this is where I can go and nail somebody. But there's 2 or 3 of them just a bit... No, hey, get there.
Especially with a player who's in the form that Phil Foden is, and none surprising that he was the one who put Manchester City in front for the first time in the game.
Yeah, look at his position here. Just makes that run and he goes in to go out. That lovely little 1-2, and these are the areas that he wants to be, and this is where he's at his best. And can he finish? I think a lot of people in there maybe try just blast it, but the way he just puts his through for it and sort of puts a good direction on it and places it almost. Maybe the goalkeeper could do better there.
I think this give and go business with players, we've got to see more of it. The little 1-2. You could take 2 or 3 players out of the game. Foden, he doesn't do anything brilliant there. Quick play. Casemiro, 1 or 2 switching off. But this is on 80 minutes. United are gone here. The concentration levels, they're tired. Whatever changes in the back 4. A quick 1-2. More players need to do that. Give and go after it. Maybe keeper could do better.
Going to be a big summer for England, and a big summer potentially for Phil Foden. We know he likes to play in the number 10 role. We know also that he's played out wide at times for Manchester City, but has flexibility within that. What do you think how do you think he's best used for England?
It's just about rotation, isn't it? You see a goal today, 1 from the left, 1 from the right. The difficult thing is, obviously, Jude Bellingham is playing sort of in a number 10 role at Real Madrid. It's all about the rotation. You don't have to stick in.
So he's got Kevin De Bruyne at club level and Jude Bellingham at international level.
It's ridiculous, but they've got to find a way to get him in the team, but not just in the team where he's isolated out on the wing, where he can make these movements, and whether it's a Stones jumping into midfield to negate that transition from the opposing team. These are all the things we need to be looking at now, because we've been saying for so long, well, Phil Foden wins all these stuff for Man City. When he goes to England, he's not the same player. He's not the same player because he's not got the freedom to do exactly what he wants to do. If he gets that freedom, he'll produce like he showed today.
There's great competition with that England squad. Obviously, Garrett's very lucky, but Foden has to be in that starting 11.
Sure.
And as brilliant as he was going forward to the other bits of the game where I was looking at him, and he's running back, he's getting back and doing a job for the team. To me, this kid's an absolute team player, and he has to be in that England team.
Erling Haaland was a play, had that terrible miss in the first half, and I was going to say, I mean, this level of miss is very unlike him, but he is a player who has few touches, who will have a few, awry shots.
Yeah,
but it doesn't seem to bother him, or indeed anyone else, because you know the goal's coming.
That is the thing. It doesn't seem to bother him. He continues to make the runs. He knows he's going to get the service, but that is a bad miss.
If they didn't get the result. Of course it would have.
Yeah.
That would have been a big moment if United managed to hang in there. But when they win the game and he scores himself, as we see, then you forget about the misses. But United, Amrabat comes on again, just couldn't get up. You just knew he was going to get caught. We're watching it, you sense it. He was never going to miss this chance again. Rodri, another huge player for City. The pressure, the squeezing up the pitch. They love winning. The two players getting to be there, cool as a breeze. Pep has that in this group of players. Brilliant finish. He was never going to miss. Poor from United, but that's Man City, yeah.
And again, it's not about his involvement throughout the whole of the game. He hadn't touched the ball for 15 minutes before he scored that goal.
You know, if you're looking at the game purely from tactics, you want your striker to be more involved within the build-up play. You want him to have more touches, create more chances for his teammates. But in this team, honestly, he doesn't have to, because you've got De Bruyne, you've got Foden, you've got Bernard, you've got Rodri, who can play them passes. It's more for his role is to keep the line very high, so he can draw the defender towards him. That leaves the space for the others to get in that little corridor or in that little pocket of space, and then he finds his movement. Rather, a lot of his runs, if you watch him, he goes to the back post. He doesn't want to go to the ball. He lets the players go to that, and then he'll go to the back post, and then he'll get his tap in. And that's what he's needed for.
And it's always tap-ins for him. All of his finishes, generally 1 or 2 touch finishes, because he's not getting involved. He's not trying to link up with people. He's thinking, I am here, and I'm sure Pep's telling him the same with his teammates, because he's got great quality around him. You just got on the end of things. No interest in the rest of the stuff.
And he managed to do that again today for Manchester City. Let's go back to the best moment of the game for Manchester United, which was Marcus Rashford's goal. It feels like it's been a really critical period in his career, and this can only help him.
Of course it can. Of course it can. Because he's had critics the last few months, and he's been defending himself, and that's how you defend yourself. We know he's got quality, but there's a lot of people question his body language for a reason. They obviously don't like what he see. There's no doubt in his quality. He's a local kid. He's been a brilliant Man United player. But just recently, there's games where he's off and he seems disinterested, and people don't want to see that. But they want to see stuff like this. And we mentioned at half-time, he doesn't have to think. Marcus is definitely that instinct type of player, running in behind. The ball's laid back to him again. Listen, an amazing strike. Not many players could strike the ball like that. Brilliant goal. But again, I suppose you always want to see more of it from him. And they've lost the game, so that'll be just a small consolation. But it was a brilliant start from United.
Yeah, 72 miles per hour.
But it has to be that goalkeeper. You know, it has to have that accuracy and that speed.
Yeah, but it's interesting to see the way that he approached the game and the way that he took that goal, where he had very little time to think about what he was going to do, particularly after the interview that he gave this week, sort of defending himself, defending those accusations of maybe not having the right body language, maybe looking like he didn't care enough at times. And he sort of rebutted all of those accusations and said, look, sometimes there are other things going on in my life. Sometimes the performances aren't there, but it's not because I don't care about it.
We've played with a lot of players, and there's very few players that don't care. Every time you go on the pitch, you care about your performance, the team performance. You want the fans to egg you on and be with you. It's just sometimes, from a fan's point of view, his body language doesn't look like he's always. So you see with Phil Foden and the way Man City set up, their aim is to get the ball back in 2 or 3 seconds. So it always looks like their body language is basically on the front foot. With Rashford, sometimes he's quite a relaxed sort of personality, and that can be seen as he's being lazy. Of course he cares about me. He's been there since he was a youngster. In the interview, he goes on about the offers that he could have had. He turned them down because he wanted to stay at Man United. And I just feel sometimes it's very difficult to be in a team which is not doing very well. And because he's a local lad, a lot of the responsibility comes on him. Could he have done better this season, performances-wise? Of course. But I think the point he was trying to get across was he loves the club. He wants to be at the club, and he just needs to perform at the level everyone expects.
But when a player comes out a little bit, the bit I wouldn't be happy when he's talking about the sacrifices he's made, his family turned down money financially. Listen, the kid's doing all right. you know, he's doing okay. It's worked out well for everybody. But when you're at a big club like Man United, obviously, and there's fans, this is talk. You know, you speak to fans who go to games every single week, home and away, and a lot of them are saying the same thing. So maybe Marcus also has to reflect and look back and go, well, maybe there is some times where I'm not maybe closing people down, and he's got other strengths in his game. I get that. And sometimes it's very easy to criticise a player, but also because he's got high expectations from the last year or two where he scored lots of goals. So there's an element of a compliment towards him. But Man United want to see more of it. And there's nothing wrong with defending it yourself, but also if there's people close around you say, well, just maybe sometimes you do need to maybe do a bit more. There's nothing wrong with that. He's learning, and as a top player, there's always improvement to get better.
Gary Neville has joined us from the gantry. Gary, Champions League still a possibility for Manchester United, as Eric Ten Hag was saying?
Yeah, it is. I think last weekend's Fulham's more of a problem than the game today. I think that today was likely going to end in defeat. I mean, obviously they were winning for parts of the game, but Villa play Spurs, I think, next week, so there's a chance, obviously, one of the teams or both will drop points. So United can get close, and I still think there's a long way to go. You know, after the March International, there's the run-in, and I think that, you know, Villa and Spurs have still got to do a job. So I think there's still hope for United there, but they're inconsistent. And the last week's defeat against Fulham was a blow. Today, I think most people would expect they would drop 3 points.
Yeah, even if they've factored this one in, how much more difficult is the job now?
It's going to be very difficult when you look at the whole season. And the manager there spoke, Ten Hag spoke about they had their moments. And this team seems to be all about moments. And when you've probably invested that money, the quality they have, you still think you need a bit more than that. It's fine sitting in against Man City and picking them off if you can, which they did well today. But it's the games we've looked over the last few months, you just don't see that consistent performance. We keep saying about Man United, they've been digging results out. Eventually that catches up with you. For Man United, in terms of the bigger picture, you need more.
That was the best defensively from a discipline point of view and a compactness point of view of the whole team. I've seen them. Actually, probably in Eric Ten Hag's whole period at United. I think in his perfect world, they would be 20, 30 yards further up the pitch playing as compact as that. They were really at the edge of their box. And I think the problem they had at the end of the game was, or not the end of the game, probably the last hour of the game, they couldn't get out. So Rashford and Garnacho have gone so deep, and then obviously Bruno and McTominay were in those positions sort of at the front. They couldn't then get back up the pitch because they didn't have the energy to, and they didn't win the ball and sort of pop it about quickly enough. But there's something there today that meant that at least he'd addressed the carnage and gaps and chaos that we've seen in midfield over the last few months. That at least stopped today. They were more controlled and I felt more disciplined.
It must give you more confidence, though, going forward with that performance today.
It was more controlled and disciplined. I think there's obviously then caused another problem. They couldn't get up the pitch. But what I think perfection would look like, and what City and Liverpool are at the best, is that shape, that compactness, 20 yards further up, so that you're more competitive and you can win the ball higher and you don't have to run then 80 yards to score a goal, which is what was having to happen with Rashford, obviously, and Garnacho being so deep.
You've got missing some key players, though, as well.
Oh yeah, the whole
Luke Shaw's
the left side.
I'm very much enjoying you being the.
Sorry,
Is he winding me up here?
No, because he always talks about structure. He always talks about balance. I just want to.
No, today I'm not. Some games after United, I've thought, well, what the hell is that? At least today I saw that there was a plan and that there was a real sort of attention to detail of how they were going to defend. So today I think is something that you can buy into a bit more in terms of how they look, because sometimes in the last few weeks you think, what are they doing? Where are they all? They're all sort of.
But
in
that's where the
positions.
standards have dropped. That we're almost praising them. They've lost it. The reason you're at Man United is to perform in the big games and to compete against the Man City and Liverpool. But now we're sitting here going, I thought they'd done all right, they were better shape. They got beaten 3-1. And the last half an hour, they were just hanging in there. They couldn't get a kick.
Yeah, but they're playing against one of the best teams the Premier League's ever produced.
They're decimated in the left side of the defence because Maguire and Martinez would play there, and so would obviously Shaw and Malacia. To lose your whole four best defenders on your left side, and then losing Johnny Evans, who's your fifth. I mean, that has probably just pushed them over the edge towards the end as well. There was a lot to ask today for United with the players they had out in the defensive positions. It was a big ask anyway, playing City.
You talked about moments in the game, Roy. There was a moment where Garnacho felt he could have had a penalty for a challenge by Ederson. What did you think?
You know, I just think it ends up being brilliant from the goalkeeper. He has to get that right, and I think he does. I really think he does. And again, these are, really important part of the game. And he just gets enough of it. And if he Garnacho could have just got it, obviously a touch in it before, you're thinking penalty. But I think that is brilliant goalkeeping. He's gambled.
I agree with Roy. But the goalkeeper is probably the only player on the pitch that can make that challenge and get away with it. Because now, if your player goes in the outfield positions, they always get booked for the follow-through or the sort of, if you like, the aggressive nature. But the goalkeeper, I think, still has the ability and the allowance to do that, and I think the right call was made.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because to play devil's advocate, because I think you're all sort of in agreement here, you know, that we often say just because you play the ball doesn't mean that it's not a foul on the follow-through. So why isn't it a foul on the follow-through here, Mike?
I just think that the timing was to perfection. And when you're going for a slide tackle like that, you have to follow through somewhere. And he just gets the ball. And I believe it's just fair. If Garnacho would have took a little bit of a nick on the ball, we're basically saying yes. But because he gets there, he's going to go through with the follow-through. So I think it's a perfect tackle.
Brilliant tackle.
It really is.
Ends up being a brilliant tackle. He just gets the timing right.
We talked about the importance of this game for Erik ten Hag, because obviously it affects what Manchester United may be able to achieve this season and affects whether or not Manchester United could qualify for the Champions League. It's his 100th game in charge. That's a 61% win ratio, which I think is possibly higher than people may expect, given the negativity around the club at times. But they have faced 20 or more shots in a game. It was 27 today, 14 times. They've been beaten by 3 or more goals 7 times across 100 games. And there is always that question at Manchester United of where has the money been spent? Why are we not seeing it on the pitch?
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously talked about this night and day, it feels like. For
but
much
Manchester
of our
United are
lives,
actually
Kelly.
playing today.
We're just tired, Kelly.
You're like the players who are out there.
Don't mention the glaciers.
No, but I mean, yeah, look.
Stop talking about it when Man United aren't playing then and answer it when they are.
There's only sort of, if you like, look, there's the Pep and Klopp factors of these two unbelievable managers that just completely get the best out of their teams. And there's an element of when they are still here that you feel like you can't compete against them. You know, I think, to me, I come back to the fact that you always think, are we on the right journey? Are we going in the right direction? And it's that idea of, can you see a style of play? Can you see a performance level that you think, right, OK, there's something building? Last season, I think, was really good in the sense of winning a trophy, get into the Champions League, get into an FA Cup final. I think there were a lot of good things about last season in terms of setting a foundation for Erik ten Hag. I would have expected them this season not to win the league. No one expected Manchester United to win the league, but they didn't expect them to be in 6th, so far off. So I think that's the problem. They've lost 11 games in the league. The performances are inconsistent. So it's that element of, is this just because there's a bit of a sort of you know, that's what happens in your second season, you just need a third to get it right? Or actually, is this what they are and is this what he is? That's the challenge that I think Ineos and sort of Jim Ratcliffe will have in terms of thinking, where are we at in this journey? Are we going in the right direction? Is this part of what the sort of, if you like, future looks like?
That's why the summer's huge. The next few months, just for example, they miss out in the Champions League and they don't win a trophy, get to the FA Cup final or whatever, then you look back and you start thinking, you know, where are we going? So that's why the next few months, if you can get off the line and win the FA Cup, and if you can get into the 5th and get in the Champions League, then it looks different. Next few months are huge for him.
But even if that does happen, does it feel that, broadly speaking, Manchester United are on that journey? Are they heading in the right direction under Ten Hag?
I'm not sure at the moment. There's, again, a huge question marks. You know, every week you see United. The point is, when you watch United, you just don't know what you're going to get. 11 defeats is nowhere near good enough. But of course, the manager still, was it 100 games? I'd always sit here and give the manager the benefit of the doubt. But as I said, come the summer, you can reflect and see where United are at. So that's why the next few months are huge for him.
All kinds of focus for Manchester City this season. Look, in terms of that performance, City haven't been criticised for their performances, but there have been suggestions that they're not firing on all cylinders. Where does that performance sit, do you think?
I think it was a very good performance in terms of what they want to do, returning the ball, recycling it. I think in the first half, they didn't have the real sharp movements around the box, but in the second half, it's so difficult to criticise City because you know at some stage within the game, they're going to come back and they're going to create a chance. But I just think we're used to seeing last season where everything was pretty much perfect. This season, it dropped off maybe a fraction, but it's only by their standards. Still great to watch and still doing all the right things, still chasing Liverpool down for the league.
Yeah, well, it's certainly looking that way. It's going to within a point of Liverpool. They've got those big games coming up against Liverpool and against Arsenal. And this is going to be a title-defining few weeks, isn't it?
It is. And I genuinely think Liverpool and Arsenal have to think that they've got to beat Manchester City. I think they have to think that way to create this monumental shift in belief that City have, that they're going to win the league, that this is their time of year, that they're experienced, they've won 3 on the bounce. And I always think when we lost titles, whether it be Chelsea with Ancelotti or Will Todd scoring at Old Trafford or Overmars scoring at Old Trafford, the team that went on to win it came to Old Trafford and won. They didn't just come to Old Trafford and draw and get a point and think they did OK. They came and shocked us. And I think that's what Liverpool and Arsenal are going to have to do to take the belief away from this Pep Guardiola team, because they'll be thinking it's ominous at this moment in time.
Liverpool got the point at the Etihad. Arsenal beat Manchester City at the Emirates. So while Arsenal have still to come here to the Etihad, the next game for City, and its big title game, is the game at Anfield. And that's Pep Guardiola's record there. Does that have any bearing, do you think, on what happens next week?
Well, it's not great, but the rest of his record is pretty good. And obviously, sometimes when you see records like that, you think, well, obviously that can be broken as well in terms of the percentage of getting results there. And it's going to be very difficult, because you look at Liverpool. Liverpool are obviously hanging in there in terms of grinding out results like they did yesterday. And it's going to be very, very difficult. But Pep and Man City are more than capable of going there and getting a result. A result being maybe a draw even. But yeah, that record's not great, but not many teams have great records at Anfield.
As much as Gary says, Arsenal and Liverpool have to go out and win those games. If Manchester City win them both, could we be done and dusted by the end of March?
Well, yeah, probably, but I don't think that'll be the case. I think Anfield's a tough place to go. I don't know what it is about the place when you go in there, and the atmosphere and the fans. For some reason, they've just got an aura around there, and for some reason, going there, even going back to my time, never won at Anfield. And you see Pep record, one of the best in the business, just 1 win in 8. So it's going to be tough. The only saving grace, I would say, for Man City is that Liverpool are wounded with injuries at this moment in time. Depends who's going to be back fit for that game.
Yeah, and that could be a significant factor when they face each other. And then, of course, it's Arsenal, and they're going to have to come here to the Etihad, and that with an Arsenal side who are in good form, who do seem to have a depth of squad now to draw on players, the ones who have been injured coming back from injury, could be an absolute crunch game.
Yeah, I mean, I said before the game, Liverpool have got momentum and energy and the Klopp factor on the way in. I think Arsenal at this moment are the best performing team, both defensively, and they've now started to hit the strides in attack. And City have got the most experience. They've all 3 got something, but this is where we're going to find out about all 3 of them. Can City do it again? Can they get over the line again? Can Arsenal do what they didn't do last year? Obviously, they completely fell away with 10 games to go. This is that moment again. I always wanted to see Arsenal in the same sort of position again with City, coming here to see how far they've developed. I think they have developed. They've obviously got Saliba, they've got Rice, they're better than they were last year, they've got more power. I can't wait for these next couple of games, because we find out really what these teams are about. And Manchester City, that's the barometer. That's what they've all got to try and knock off the perch. And that's why I say you've got to come and beat them. You can't just say, well, the City might drop points at that ground and at that ground if you're not going to go and beat them yourself. You have to beat them if you're Liverpool and Arsenal.
And from City's point of view, the top 7, the current top 7, are their opponents over their next 8 games. They've also got the games against Copenhagen, admittedly in the Champions League. They've got the FA Cup quarter-final coming up against Newcastle. It's all set for Manchester City between now and what, mid-April?
I think the fact that they're even challenging on all fronts this season after winning the treble last season is a credit to them. But the games do come thick and fast now, and you don't want to lose a key player in this moment. I think if everyone's fit, I think it's always that timing of the run, isn't it? They always start a little bit slow, and then it's this time, the key part of the season, where they seem to perform the best. So it's going to be exciting for sure.
And a little bit of luck, thrown in there. They got a home draw against Newcastle, and obviously they've had a really good result in the first leg of Europe. So all looks fine from that point of view.